Ladies and gentlemen, it has been a while, but I bring you glad tidings. The developer diaries are back, baby. That means there's at least one DLC in the works over there at Paradox headquarters, so let's see what they have for us already. Now, I do admit this is going to be a 2-for-1 because I am a little late. This first piece of information is from May 4th, so quite a ways off, but I've been busy. Let's hop right in. It is very juicy. The first thing here in what they're calling their designer corner touches on peace conferences, and I can already hear you guys just making those happy sounds as you make your pants dirty. Peace conferences are getting a rework. Now, there will be a lot of stuff they will need to do, but what they're essentially looking to do are to create a system that appropriately rewards participation. Sounds good. Now let's see how you calculate participation. They want to allow for conflict and conflict resolution within the scope of the conference. So other than just the current way of spending points, they want to spice it up a little while making it a little less stupid. And they want to create a limited economy within conferences where you may have to sacrifice overall aims in order to secure immediate concern. So you'll have to probably start somewhat negotiating or using your points in a clever way. Instead of just taking whatever you want, you'll have to divvy things up with other members of the peace conference. This may or may not work out because, well, we all like to make very big countries on the map. This may just result in us completely abandoning AI allies or just foregoing them entirely, but we'll see. And the last one here, produce more realistic outcomes where the AI is concerned. Yeah, I can see that. So first off, they're immediately admitting that the current peace system is not great, and for the last few months they have been working to overhaul the peace conference system. Well, I'm interested, they've got me. Now, the first major departure they're making from the old system is shifting away from absolute claims, which means you click, or the AI decides they want a province, and you move on to the next round. That province is taken, it is locked, nobody can touch it. Now, the people can bid on things, like you can see here. Brazil wants to bid on a territory that has already been claimed by Argentina. I have no idea if these are numbers that will be final, I doubt it, but what this means is that you will no longer be locked out of certain provinces you absolutely must have for an achievement or a formable nation. There will be ways to get that territory if you are willing to spend your power points or your peace deal points or whatever on those limited amounts of provinces. Of course, as a trade-off, you will most likely have limited total gains, so less overall land conquered, but you will at least have the stuff you absolutely need. Well, let's see if that actually works out, but I am very interested already. Another system they are changing is the way the turns are handled. In the old system, the current system, countries are ranked by participation, and then they can spend all the points they want up to a certain amount. And where it currently gets really weird is that the list gets updated after every turn, which often just means the top two just exchange turns for quite a while until pretty much everything is taken. And well, I suppose that's good if you're going for a very historical World War II where the Soviets and the Americans dictate terms, but doesn't make for good gameplay in almost any other case. I'm glad to see that they are admitting that. They're still thinking about how to finalize it, but I think they've come to the conclusion that they want to go with a blind bid system. Essentially, it means that everyone involved in the peace deal has to make their actions at the same time. That way, I suppose we'll have less of an opportunity to cheese the AI, at least until we figure out how to cheese the AI again. But it does make for a little more interesting gameplay nonetheless. This will work combined with a certain system that the bids will have separate costs. It all looks very complicated, but they explain it fairly well. In short, the main concept is everyone acts simultaneously. Every turn, every peace conference participant has to use their points to make certain bids on territory, like explained before. And when everyone has finished making their bids, all of them are evaluated at once. Every bid has a fixed cost, depending on the territory, I would assume, much like currently claims do. But now there will be more modifiers involved. And in any instance where two people want the same thing, that state will be marked as contested, and the players involved will have the majority of the points invested in that particular bid refunded. And every time a state will be contested, so turn 1, both people want Berlin, turn 2, same, turn 3, etc, 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 every time that state is contested, it will become more expensive for every subsequent round, and that will stack on every state which is contested. Now, the other side of this is uncontested bids, which means every turn a bid you place on, for instance, Stettin or Paris, and nobody else contests it. They say, in the first round, fine, take it. Every turn that bid goes uncontested, it will become more and more and more expensive over the terms of the peace deal, unless somebody actually comes in and says, well, I want that, then it will become contested. Essentially, over the course of a peace deal, this will lock in the bid because it will be too expensive to realistically contest. This is a bit of a visualization between Brazil and Argentina trying to fight over Chaco Boreal. I think that's how you pronounce it, in which they both need to decide, do we want this, do we not want this, how many points are we going to invest, are we going to keep fighting over this, is one of us going to back down first, or do we keep going until one of us runs out of points? It's interesting. I'll see how this plays out. And then the final point, and they do make a good point, but if I get points every turn, how does the peace conference ever end? Well, obviously, they limit the amount of points you can get. And it's pretty self-explanatory. Every participant will get a fixed amount of points over the course of the conference based upon war participation. Now, I'm gonna come in here with my own comments. Please, Paradox, figure out a realistic way to calculate war participation, because currently it is, and I'm sorry to say this, stupid. Pretty stupid. Yeah, well. The way they're gonna do this moving forward will be to distribute a percentage of those points every turn until all points are distributed. And I'm glad to see that they realize it's gonna come down to rebalancing how war participation works and figuring out what's a good cap for the conference. I am very interested in this already, but it gets even better, which brings us to Dev Diary or Developer Corner or whatever you want to call it, number 2. That's right, air changes. They've changed tanks, they've changed the Navy. Of course, the Air Force cannot be far behind. There will be changes to how the Air Force works. And the focus on the air changes mostly revolve around quality of life fixes, hallelujah, and some balance changes, that's pretty great. And they're gonna try and keep the rest of the known gameplay intact. We'll see how that works out. And one of the first changes, of course this is all work in progress, but one of the first changes they want to do is change how you deploy air wings. Currently, I don't have to tell you, it's a bit of a hassle. Now gladly they put in that air wing duplication button and it helps, but it's so much easier if we could just deploy multiple wings at once, and it looks like they are finally going to allow that. Multiple wings of fighters, CAS, bombers, all going up at the same time from any airbase. Please, that was way overdue. I look very forward to this. Other than that, they're also finally adding some filters to the air wing screen, so instead of having to scroll through an endless list as the war drags on and you capture planes and make different variants, etc, we will finally get some filters. Finally! Plus, we will be able to set some reinforcement preferences for all of the wings we're about to deploy, or just individual wings. And what is possibly the biggest quality of life improvement they have planned is the addition of air groups. Now, they say this is not like army groups or fleets, but it does look like it will work by displaying your airplanes and your air wings on a per theater basis. As we can see from the screenshot, it's sort of similar like how fleets and armies are arranged in your top right corner whenever you have the specific map type open. This is gonna be a lot easier to select all your airplanes if you want to reorganize or move things around when you're trying to micromanage a large front. Where the hell did my airplanes go? This is gonna clean that up tremendously. I am very much looking forward to this. Another change they are making, and I'm not sure I agree with this, but I can see where they're going. They want to standardize and fix wing sizes. What do I mean by that? They want to change the way we deploy airplanes. Currently, you can deploy one airplane, you can deploy 900 airplanes, anything in between, you can just granularly change that. It does appear that they are moving towards 100 size air wings for most aircraft, and then smaller 10 wing air sizes for specific airplanes like carrier planes, scout planes, the smaller things that you don't really have billions of. It would, as they say, allow them to streamline wing deployment and make management a little easier, and it would, thank God if they pull this off, it would not make the AI do weird things with air bases. Apparently there's some management issues with the AI, and if that can resolve that, I would very much agree. That is a good change. Of course, balancing will be easier, it might fix some exploits, but I look forward to this change. I know it's not for every country, so I do hope they add some level of granularity to that if you don't have 100 airplanes, so you can deploy what you have and it will fill up to 100 and then you need to make a new air wing, but it makes management so much easier. I look forward to this. It does remove, of course, the endless spam of getting your war support up via your fighter aces, but it's a small price to pay for a game that actually works. And then the final change they want to do, and I am curious about this, is a change to the combat system. They will be adding, or looking to add, a new mechanic to intercept airplanes in regions en route to their target. Because the way combat works now is airplanes are deployed to one zone, the enemy or you counter with your own planes in that zone, and all the fighting happens in that zone. What they're effectively looking to do is, if you have airplanes taking off from zone A, they have to move through zone B to start bombing or fighting in zone C. They will add an option for fighters, I would assume it's fighters, to try and intercept those airplanes heading from A to C by deploying in B. I'm not sure just how useful that's gonna be, but I am very curious to see if it will prove effective. It is definitely interesting how this will work with strategic bombers that usually cross like a ton of air zones because of their massive range, and it will make it a lot easier to try and pick them off, because the enemy will then also have to counter with their own fighters to stop you instead of just dumping everything into one air zone. And lastly, of course, they are going to try to do some balancing. They mostly hint at taking apart the way agility and speed work in regards to air combat, so we'll have to see about that. Everything here is work in progress, but it does look like they're taking a serious look at the air, so we may see a new gameplay arrive from this, and I am going into speculation territory here, but it does feel like they will eventually pivot towards some sort of airplane designer as well. If they're starting these dev diaries with an early look into air, I think air is going to be a major part of this DLC moving forward, and I expect an airplane designer. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this, and I will try to keep you posted with more dev diaries or developer corners moving forward. See ya.